Here. Councilman Papandrea? Present. Councilwoman Moore is present. You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item is adoption of the consent agenda. So moved. Move.
Support with discussion.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion, Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, I'd like to remove item 4N as in Nancy.
Remove it to the regular agenda?
Yes.
Okay. So that will be 14I when we get there.
Any additional? Call the question as amended. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Kabazinski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Ms. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 5, adoption of the agenda. So moved with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Yes, I'd like to add an item under council business. It will be 13B, a legal update from Mr. Schroeder, and remove 12D at the request of the petitioner. And what was 4N will now be 14I.
Okay. Everybody got that? Any additional? Call the question as amended. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Ms. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kabazinski?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 6A, calendar of pending matters. Motion to receive and file.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 6B, discussion in-ray resident neighborhood concerns.
Mr. President,
Mr. Watts?
got a couple items. Number one is really of a great concern. 8300 Chicago Road, which is the Motel 6. There's been an enormous amount of runs, both police and fire there. So many runs that there's a huge thread in social media about it, and the residents are fed up with it. I don't know what path we need to go down. I'm thinking we need to do a nuisance abatement on it, but I think we should at least meet with the owners of that. And when you look at the amount of runs that are going to the rest of the hotels on Van Dyke, when I cross-searched the owner of Motel 6, they own many of the hotels that are getting the high call volumes at.
Gotcha.
So whatever we need to do to set up a meeting with those people or something, we need to get this resolved quickly because it's not setting well with the residents.
No.
Second thing I got is 14810 Jenny. Got a call yesterday about a neighbor situation, and they got a very large boat on a trailer, tarped, setting in the driveway in front of the garage. I drove by there. It's not a very good looking site. I don't think it fits the ordinance at all. And the last thing I got is 9 Mile in Panama. Since July, there's still a 35 or 40 foot fifth wheel setting on a vacant lot on a corner of 9 Mile in Panama, and a huge pile of garbage stacked along the fence that hasn't been resolved. So I would hope that property management would get this resolved once and for all.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. Any additional?
Mr. President,
Ms. Moore?
I would just piggyback what Mr. Watts said about Motel 6. That's my district, and I drive by there every day, and I hear a lot of complaints from my neighbors. And not every time I drive by, but often when I drive by, there's a police car there, or there's something going on in the parking lot that is not good. So I think we need to do something. I don't know what the answer is, but maybe between the property maintenance and the police department, they can come up with an idea.
Thank you. Any additional?
Mr. President.
Mr. Lafferty?
Thank you. I was approached by a resident at 3241 Pearl and they are reporting a sinkhole developing in front of their home. So through the chair to Ms. Gapshis, if you could take a note of that, 3241 Pearl. And apparently this has been addressed already by your office. She had spoken to, the homeowner had spoken to a member of engineering, and they said that it was supposed to come to council for approval, a contract to make repairs. I told her I was unaware of any sinkhole repairs coming before us, so if you could follow up, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Any additional?
Mr. President?
Mrs. Moore?
I've gotten several calls from both sides of the issue of people complaining of neighbors parking commercial vehicles in the street and in the driveways. And then also I have complaints for people that have those commercial vehicles. Where are we supposed to park them? So I think it would be great if there could be some sort of public service segment, maybe on TV Warren or on the website, that tells people exactly what the rules are. Can you have a registered business in your home? I know you can, but you can't have people coming in and out, or whether you're allowed to have commercial and what the limitations are. So that would be, I would be interested in having the residents be better informed about that, because there does seem to be some confusion, and I know there's parking problems in the certain areas
Right.
around town, and if you put a large vehicle, that takes a lot of spots up for the residents. So that's just an idea. It'd be nice if the administration could do that.
Any additional? So sending over 8300 Chicago, 14810 Jennings, 9 Mile and Panama, 3241 Pearl, and the one Ms. Moore referenced as well, to the administration through resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
Next item is 7A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 22nd, 2022. So moved.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 8A, approval of the bills of the general revenue funds. Motion to approve with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion.
Thank you. There are two large wire transfers on this list of bills. One amount is $23,808, and that is to the Huth Law Firm in the Hooks case, and another for $16,747 in the Zephaning case, also to the Huth Law Firm.
Thank you. Any additional? Call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Ms. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 8B, approval of the bills of the water and sewer system. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Ms. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 8C, General Fund Revenue Report for September 2022. Motion to receive and file with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion. Ms. Moore?
Yes, we have 6 reports on this agenda today, which is quite a bit. I certainly didn't have a chance to go through them all, and I spoke with Mr. Fox before the meeting, and he said that if anyone had questions, we could certainly call and ask them.
Thank you.
So,
What's your motion?
receive and file.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
8D, General Fund Expenditure Report for September 2022. Motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
8E, General Fund Revenue Report for October 2022. Motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
8F, General Fund Expenditure Report for October 2022. Motion to receive and file.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
8G, General Fund Revenue Report for November 2022. Motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
8H, General Fund Expenditure Report for November 2022. Motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Audience.
Members of the audience who would like to address council may do so this evening under this portion. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak. When there's 1 minute left, I'll state so, and when it gets to 3 minutes, I'll ask you to wrap up. The first speaker is George Demas.
Good evening, Council President Patrick Green and many more Council Secretary, members of the City Council. Just have a short announcement. We have one new appointment to the Historical Commission, and his name is Andrew W. Fetzer, Jr. And that concludes my delivery. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Demas. John Renaud.
Good evening. I'm John Renaud, a 42-year resident of Warren. Before I start, even though we've been at opposition on most things, I would like to take a moment here for people to remember in their prayers Joe Vanderlinden, my good friend here, and pray for his father, who is deathly ill and right now being operated on. So if we can remember him and any other people in your prayers over this holiday season. I also would like to say I'd like to thank all the workers, represented and non-represented workers at the City of Warren for the great job that they do year in and year out, day in and day out, in all kinds of weather conditions. I've lived in other cities, bar none. Warren, Michigan city services are the actual best. Not, they might be the best, they are the best. And I credit that because of the administration and the people they hire in certain positions, and they do a good job. I don't want to address this, but I will address it since it came up on the news recently in regards to Mr. Schroeder and your defamation of character and your absolute outright disgusting picture of the so-called Grinch, Mayor Faust, who I know you all hate, every one of you up here. You've showed that hate through your entire years on council. The hate is beyond anything I've ever seen. You can just keep your head down, Mr. Schroeder. If I ran your law firm, you'd be the janitor now. You wouldn't be a lawyer. Total immaturity. Mindy Moore, I understand you thought, oh, he doesn't have a sense of humor. It's just a joke. Well, guess what? At Christmas time,
1 minute.
when you have children outside and you're having a Christmas giveaway to kids and candy, and then you got somebody in the background sneaking, putting pictures of the Grinch up. I don't know any other city that's ever done anything like this. You're spending way too much of the taxpayers' money on having this law firm. I honestly don't understand how you're getting away with it. It's either the people in this town aren't awake of what's going on, or you're just doing one hell of a good con job. It might be a good con job. Sadly to say, we do have a mayor that cares about the citizens and cares about running this town the right way. And you obviously put a good magnifying glass onto that it's a joke. The way you operate is a joke. Each and every one of you up here are responsible. There's nobody that isn't. If you played along with that, you're as guilty as they are, or he is. Merry Christmas.
Laurie Arts.
Good evening, City Council. The American with Disabilities Act was written to require governments and businesses to provide access and accommodations to persons with disability. All of us need the City of Warren to pay attention and make sure its buildings are accessible to everyone. The City of Warren ordered an engineering study to determine what needs to be done to bring our city buildings up to compliance with the ADA. I have actually seen the results of that. It is 22 pages, single-spaced. 6 pages need to be subcontracted. It's very serious. I cannot believe the list of non-compliances with the ADA in our city buildings, and this did not include the park. I understand the city council cannot do anything about this. My message is to the citizens of Warren and to the administration. Somebody has to come forward, get the money. I'm told the Disabilities Commission has $1 million, and we're looking at 4 or 5 times that. And I ask everyone to contact the administration and encourage the administration to make our city buildings accessible for everyone. I also want to talk about the incinerator. Warren has an incinerator, and when they use it to treat our sewage. The city has reported that the current life of the incinerator is only 3 usable years. The state of Michigan, Eagle, would like the incinerator not to be used. There are only 3 ways of disposing of sewage. We can put them in landfills, we can burn them in our incinerators, or we can use an alternative technology. The current incinerator does not burn PFAS, microplastics, or pharmaceuticals. We put this in our landfills. That means we're destroying our land.
1 minute.
We're putting it on farms, and that means that we're eating it. The cost to replace the incinerator is $120 million. The new technology is $75 million. I'm asking for the citizens of Warren to educate yourself, see what our city is facing. If we replace the current incinerator, we're talking $120 million in the next 3 years with a 1.5-year build. We cannot make this decision political. We need to work together, city council, members of the community, and the city administration. This is health and safety. If the new incinerator they're proposing has never been done on this scale. I understand there are issues. So my request is for everyone to educate yourselves and let's get together. I would like a committee of the whole. You did it with Parks and Recreation. Call Brian Clorian and allow him to educate City Council and the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Harris.
Good evening. I want to start off with not so pleasant news. As your typical COVID educator, I want to let you know that our numbers are really increasing in terms of reported cases. In the last 7 days, we've had 181 deaths in our state. The 7 days before that, we had 247. That's over 400 people in 2 weeks in our state have died from COVID. So please care about the people around you. Mask up. You're going to be in a lot of gatherings. I know people want to be together with their families, but we have to be safe. So please stay safe, everyone. So I wanted to talk about my Christmas list. Here's what I want for Christmas. I want to have hope for a future for our city. Right now, I don't have a lot of hope. I see a lot of problems that aren't getting fixed. I want to have joy. I want to celebrate friendships and good neighbors. I want to have care for those less fortunate. I love that we can get together and do good things for other people, and we need to do more of that. I want an open heart to see the needs around me. And I think all of us need to do that. Have an open heart and see the needs around us. My New Year's resolution is I'm not going to stop fighting. I'm not going to stop fighting against the illegal things that are happening in our city. I'm not going to stop fighting to get marijuana grow houses out of our neighborhoods. I'm not going to stop fighting for the right things to be done. I also want to mention, this is after Lori's comments about biosolids and about the incinerator and this new technology. There are other ways to get rid of biosolids, and if you do a real good search on the internet and not through Google, you can find out other ways that other states are disposing of biosolids. It is a very big deal. We don't want PFAS and forever chemicals being burned and let into the atmosphere, in our ground, in our water. It's already there. We don't want more of it. But we need to do a better job of looking for resources and fighting and pushing for something that's never even come to the council yet or been talked to the council about is really not the right way to do it. There's a proper way to do things in the city, and residents like me can be educated, but business needs to happen the right way in the city. And that means wastewater treatment needed to come to budget talks in the spring and bring their information and what their plans are. And council gets to decide on that. I know, 1 minute?
3 minutes.
3 minutes? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and ho, ho, ho.
Thank you. Vincent Marek?
Hello, thanks for letting me speak. I just wanted to talk to you about an issue I've been having. On several occasions, I've been out walking my dogs, and there's one particular area where 2 dogs have attacked my dogs. I've called animal control numerous times about it. They've gone out and checked. They tell me there's nothing they can do because what the issue is this person has an invisible fence. Now, I've had dogs all my life. That system is not guaranteed. When the animal control officer's gone out there, she just sits out there and watches. If there's no stimulus, they will not cross that barrier. As soon as they see my dogs, they're 10, 15 feet past that line. I've had to go jump into Chicago Road to get away from them. So eventually I just gave up and I stayed away from that house. Well, it's been a year. I decided to go walk. We'll go walk down, but we'll stay on the other side of the street. These dogs totally crossed Demas Road and came after my dogs. Fortunately, my son was with me. If he wasn't, I wouldn't have been able to fend off 2 dogs. I don't blame the dogs. They're probably nice dogs in general. I blame the people that are totally irresponsible. Why this guy has to have the wire go all the way up to his sidewalk is beyond me. There should be a buffer, 10 feet, something. So at least you have some warning. You go walk down that sidewalk, you see 2 dogs come barreling at you, you don't know what to think. I don't know what to think. I'm not sure what to do, but I guess the big problem of this is the animal control officer telling me that there's no ordinance regulating this thing at all. And it's not the only house I've encountered this at. This is just particularly the worst one. And when I tried to be nice and talk to the gentleman, I kind of just I got nice dogs, aha, too bad for you. Sooner or later, somebody's gonna get hurt, or heaven forbid, I have to do something because I don't want my dogs injured. So I don't know who to talk to. I have photos of the area if somebody wants to take it and look at it, but I hope someone can tell me what to do because I'm at my wit's end with it. And I feel like I should not have to avoid areas in the neighborhood because of this. That's all.
We'll send this over to the administration and ask them to get in touch with you. I don't know if, give the information to Mary here, and then we'll get it off to police and we'll have a conversation with command.
All right, thanks. And thanks for saying the pledge. In this sad world, it just made me so happy to hear it.
Thank you, Mr. Marek. Mary, get his contact information too, please.
Hello. You gotta bear with me a minute. When you're old, you get these hot flashes and you gotta, the merrier, we're all dried up and everything. Oh, here, let me give you my, thanks. I would just like to talk to you about Fouts. His little attitude that he doesn't quite seem to understand the story of the Grinch. It's about a man who's horrible, who gains a heart, who all of a sudden learns to love, learns to communicate, learns to be with everyone. I think that's the gist of the story, instead of going on the news whining like a little 3-year-old. By the way, for the record, for those naysayers, I in fact did make a donation to Salvation Army. So just to let you know. I also want to talk about Mr. Ron. Your behavior the other couple meetings ago, where you stood up and riled up the audience, and you were despicable, and that you jumped off that stage, left the meeting, and were cheering and just encouraging discontent. That's on you, and I feel you should be censured for it. I truly, truly do. Anyway, Merry Christmas to everybody. Have a great one.
Merry Christmas. Mr. Van der Linden.
I'm having hot flashes too.
That's a good shirt.
Joel Valen, longtime Warren resident. I'd like to pick up where she left off. First of all, Mr. Fouts is not the Grinch. The Grinch had a heart that grew. Mr. Fouts has no heart. Mr. Papandreou, there's a thing called ethics. You yelled and screamed about it. Says that we should be kissing Vincent Heine because he passed the law board and this, that, and the other, and we have to show him respect. When you jump off that table, that desk, and you go out and incite a riot outside in the parking lot, yelling racism, 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 that's unethical. That's poor judgment. And I, too, feel you should be censored. When you go to a private meeting with a certain group, and you and Mr. Kabazinski talk badly about myself and other citizens, putting targets on our heads and possibly even endangering us, you should be censored, if not removed. I'm ashamed of you. I'm ashamed of Mr. Kabazinski. I'm ashamed of your behaviors. You are not acting like councilmen. You're acting like the mayor. And that's totally shameful. To the rest of the council and the people in Warren, thank you for my prayers for my father, and I wish you all a happy and Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Announcements, Mr. President.
Ms. Moore.
The first thing I'd like to announce and just reinforce that our next meeting is a week from today because of the holiday schedule, so we will be meeting on the 20th. Also, congratulations to the De La Salle football team. They won their second straight state title, Division II, so congrats to them. Also, I would like to commend and congratulate several police officers who were promoted. Officers Michael Colrus, Anthony Rudin, and Nicholas Lineman were promoted to the rank of corporal. And we'd like to welcome newly hired police officers Aiden Hudgens, Joseph Weaver, Michael Quarantana, Ryan Smith, Quentin Elam, Evan Dinkle, Andrew Pisecki, Elmondo Smith, Owen Pash, and Zachary Harmon, along with police officer candidate Justin Lineman. Several of us here on council were at the swearing-in ceremony. It's always a great event to see our officers promoted and to welcome new officers. And they all expressed how excited and happy they were to be here. Several of them had been here for a while, and they were very, very happy with their experience here. So welcome to them, and we hope they all have very successful, long careers with us. And I think that's...
Any additional announcements?
Mr. President.
Mr. Lafferty.
I'd like to congratulate the Warren Civic Theater. They produced Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. They were passing out these flashing noses.
I got mine.
And so they did a terrific job. This was this past weekend's show for the young kids and a couple of older ones in there, I believe. And they did an outstanding job, so I wanted to congratulate them. Nearly sold out shows, so if you haven't had a chance to see the Warren Civic Theater in action, warrencivic.org. They've got many more shows coming up, so please do check them out. They've already held auditions for the next show, which is going to be Newsies, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. And a couple more coming up this summer, so think about it, check him out. So congratulations, Mr. Trascoma and the entire cast and crew.
And to Autumn. She did a great job.
Thank you.
I saw it on Sunday, and it was a wonderful performance. Any other announcements?
Mr. President?
Mr. Watts?
I found this notice the other day through a friend of mine, and I knew the name, so I looked it up. And we recently, earlier in December, we lost a longtime Warren police officer, Ronald Goss. He was 83 years old. He served the Warren Police Department for 36 years. And I'd just like to request a moment of silence.
Moment of silence. Thank you. Ms. Moore?
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. Several of us were also at Meyer last week when there was Shop with Heroes.
Shop with the Cop.
Well, it was with Heroes, actually. It was Shop with a Cop, but they Shop with Heroes, I think is what they call it now. I could be wrong. But the kids went and shopped with the police officers. It was really, really a nice event. And I'd like to commend everybody that was involved in the whole operation. Kids are really happy, and the police did a really, really nice job. They had one of the police dogs there that the kids always love to see that. So
That was a nice event. The Warren and Centerline Police were there, and the other kids did have a good time. And Santa was there too.
Explorers.
Too.
Yep.
Any additional?
Mr. President.
Mr. Kabczynski?
Mr. President, as was alluded to earlier, there's been a lot of problems at the Motel 6. Sunday was a quite busy day for our police department, and they had one particular run that came out from the Motel 6, ensued into a chase. Chase ended with an individual that is a victim. It sounded like it was a domestic situation at first, and turned out that the lady that was rescued by the police department was a victim of human trafficking. Unfortunately, the suspect did get away due to the lack of help from St. Clair Shores with their canine officer. But it just goes to show that we have really caring and really concerned officers that are looking after the victims when they are dealing with domestic violence situations and also human trafficking situations. So I think that one particular officer really put his heart into doing the job on Sunday evening, and I believe he deserves a very well-earned attaboy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kabczynski. Thank you. City of Warren lost one of its board members recently. Very sad to learn the passing of Darlene Biondo. Darlene was very instrumental in making sure the beautification of the city was a success, and she'll always be remembered as a woman with a mission and a smile on her face to go with it. Darlene passed on December 9th at age 68, and will be missed by everyone in the city. We have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Any other announcements? Next item.
11A, which is a public hearing, request for rezoning with conditions, located on 12 Mile Road, 311 feet east of Grobel Drive from the present zoning classification C2, which is General Business District, and P, Parking District, to C3, Wholesale and Intensive Business District, 5580 12 Mile Road, Section 17, 12 Mile Development LLC, Michael McPherson, Symmetry Property Management.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak regarding this item? Hearing or seeing none, I close the public hearing, turn the item over to council for action. I'm assuming, are you from the public or a petitioner?
Everybody, good night. Actually, I am leaving the Warren, the Global EU, my residential area.
Can you speak in the microphone? I can't hear you.
Oh, the residential area 28858 Global EU, the 12 mile.
Yep.
Actually, this is the pagoda distance to my 20 feet at my house, because this is my play area. This is in this time my baby this area, because this is not the acceptable the pagoda. I objection this one, Your Honor.
Your
Thank you. Have a great day.
Noted.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here or the administration have anything to add? Are you the petitioner?
Yes, sir.
I think another gentleman wants to speak from the public portion first. Just give us a second.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm a resident of Gravel Avenue 28834. I have the same objection as the gentleman what he said, so I do object the same thing. I don't want to like put the pagoda in there in this place. Thank you.
Thank you. Close the public hearing, turn the item over to council for action. Is there a motion so we can have discussion?
Motion to deny with discussion.
Motion by Lafferty.
Support
Moore.
for discussion.
For discussion. Sir?
Good evening. My name is Mike McPherson. I'm with Atwill, civil engineering consultant for the project. I'm here before you to request approval for a conditional rezoning for this property, which is along 12 Mile, just west of Mound Road. This property is currently zoned C2 with some parking zoning on the perimeter. It was formerly a McDonald's, followed by, I think, a pet supply store, and has been vacant for the last 7 years. Our proposal is for a conveyor car wash, Mr. Car Wash, if you've seen those previously. We're asking for a conditional rezoning to rezone it to C3 with several offered conditions. The most probably applicable, especially to the residents here, is with the plan that's attached to the rezoning agreement, which provides not only a screen wall along that south side, but also over 40 feet of landscaped area, which is twice as much as what's typically required and is significantly more than the 6 feet that exists today. Further, the plan houses any central vacuums towards the roadside and enclosures to mitigate noise. There's a lot of landscaping. It is a business that is closed in the evenings, as all car washes are. It's closed on Sundays. Our offers also preclude almost all other uses allowed in the B3 district to try to bring the level of potential intensity back in line with its current C2 zoning. We have worked hard with staff on the request and with legal counsel, and I think you guys have a copy of the draft agreement probably in your packet. At this point, Mr. Car Wash is very excited at the opportunity. I think we have addressed adequately all concerns, and this will be a successful business and bring this piece of unused property, back up to usefulness in the city with a several $million investment. With that, happy to answer any questions you may have. Hoping for a positive outcome. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions?
Mr. President?
Ms. Moore?
Thank you. I'm very familiar with that area. I've been going to the nail salon that's there for almost 20 years. My friend owns a business across the street. Traffic is terrible there. You cannot come out of that, the outlots area at 12 Mile where the bank is. And unless they put a light there or do something about traffic control, I just cannot see that area can take any more traffic coming out of a business, and there's going to be a lot. Something would have to be done first to convince me that you can't turn now.
Sure.
Out of there, and if you add more there, then you're going to have everything going, and you've got the median that makes you can't turn left from there. So people are going down further, turning around to go back to get into McDonald's and Sushi Bond. Is the Sushi Bond still there? And Louisiana Crab and those businesses. I just think that whole intersection needs to be revamped. That median's got to be pulled out of there.
That's the county.
That is the county. It's a problem though, and it's a traffic problem. It's going to get worse. but a light or something needs to be done there. This is just, would be too much traffic for me. I appreciate it, and I love to see business coming in. I know that's been vacant for a long time, but I fear for the added traffic there. But maybe we can come up with an answer for that.
Any additional comments?
Sure. Mr. President.
Mr. Lafferty?
Thank you. Sir, thank you for coming up tonight. I hear your comments, and I appreciate the offer to invest in the city. I honestly do. This is my district, but not one of my neighbors that border the rear of your property support this. Not one. And two of them are here tonight. But there are several others that spoke at the Planning Commission. They spoke very eloquently, and they maintain their opposition to this project. Now, I wouldn't have an issue if you were putting in a store, a business office, doctor's office, but something that has constant traffic, and I'm not convinced that you're going to mitigate the noise. I appreciate the fact that the setbacks are extended. You have got additional screening. I talked with Mr. Worth. This is a difficult decision because of the additional effort that's been put into this plan to make this work. But I just don't understand if there isn't another piece of property suitable for your operation. We have a car wash at Common and 12 Mile, and we also have one at, Common and Ryan. We also have one right at the corner of 13 and Mound. So we've got car washes right in the general vicinity, and I'm not certain another one is even needed in this area. But for the intrusion into the neighborhood, or the potential intrusion into the neighborhood, I cannot support this. Thank you.
Mr. Worth, do you have a moment?
Good evening, Council.
Evening, Mr. Worth. So,
John Worth.
Planning Commission recommended the rezoning?
They did, and so did the staff.
Okay. So this used to be a McDonald's that had, many years ago. It was a McDonald's when we were all growing up around here. Mm-hmm. And so it had a lot of traffic, a drive-through, ingress and egress. I don't see the exposure, and I understand C2 to C3. It's a C2 right now?
C2. It's a C2 with a P zone.
Okay. And so we're going to have, in theory, the same amount of traffic from a car wash as we had in McDonald's. Is that a reasonable assumption?
No.
Okay, how
not? I think there'd be more traffic through the McDonald's than through the car wash.
Okay. And how far away is the driveway ingress egress from that median at 12 and Mound? We don't have a problem turning left out of there.
I can't answer that question.
But we can turn left out of that parking lot at McDonald's, or I'm still going to call it McDonald's.
You can turn left and right coming out of the out of that site.
Okay. My opinion on it, is we're not increasing the intensity of what was there already, and even if this were to fail, a fast food could go back in there and have more intense use, even though that our zoning requires a C3 for a car wash. So my personal opinion, this fits with that area. It fits with the as Mr. Lafferty said, we have 2 car washes in the area, but we lost one at 12 and Van Dyke years ago when Planet Fitness went in. So it's not our domain or job to figure out the economics of an area and what will and what won't make it. They're going to invest money in something, so I'm sure they've done their studies. So my personal opinion is I'm in favor of it. Any other comment?
Mr. President,
Mr. Papandrea.
I agree. I don't think a car wash fits for this area. I'll be voting no.
Thank you, Mr. Papandrea. Mr. Kaczynski.
I'll be supporting Mr. Lafferty.
Mr. Kaczynski.
Mr. Worth, I'm sorry. Has there been any other interest, to your knowledge, on this property and items going in, another type of business going in here other than this car wash?
Not that I'm aware of. As the petitioner said, it's been vacant for 7 years, and certainly one of the things we want to do is fill vacancies, but not just with any use.
And
I do want to say this, if I may. With, if you all read the conditions that they put forth, they eliminated probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the other uses out of the C3 to do this. So I was kind of surprised, but I was happy that that's what they did to maintain that commercial or retail flavor that's going to be there if it fails. And it would, and that's what would happen with that particular use. Also, and I'll stop there. I'm talking. I shouldn't be doing that. Sorry.
No.
What can I do for you?
Okay. I was going to ask, with the increased buffer that's been done to the rear of the property, that's still not sufficient to quell any amount of noise that there would be happening?
Oh, wait.
Is it working now? Okay, now we're back. That's one of the widest green belts we have in the city. 42 feet wide, landscaped, lots of landscaping back there, and a 6-foot high masonry concrete wall. You're not going to find it anywhere else in the city unless maybe it's in an industrial district. So they increased it. It wasn't that wide before. McDonald's had it back there when they were there. So that's a real one of the pluses. I'm not trying to sell, I'm just trying to inform and be factual here.
The lighting is not going to be facing towards the neighborhood. It's going to be facing towards, even away from the green belt, it'll be facing towards the property, correct?
The lighting on that parcel and any parcel in this town has to be, it cannot run past the property lines. So no glare, no upward lighting, that's everywhere. That's a requirement.
No, but I meant the lighting will not be going towards the green belt. That would not be lit up. That would remain dark, and that buffer would still...
There would be no reason to light the green belt.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Moore.
Just one more comment. It was mentioned about a McDonald's being heavier use, and I get that. But there was nothing across the street at that time. That was all vacant. Everything over there was vacant, so you didn't have traffic pulling left out of there, and that's really what the problem is you're going to have people trying to, it's hard to get out, pull out left now. It's horrible to get out of there. But where the nail salon is, I go there all the time. Not from that aspect. I disagree, not from that aspect. That it's hard to turn left? From where the community bank is? No, from the other side of the street, it's not. I disagree. I'm just disagreeing. You mean where the bank is? The new bank and the nail salon and Oasis? Turning left. From there is not hard? To go eastbound on 12 Mile? Yeah, it's really difficult. Yeah, that exit, yes. Well, that's what I'm not talking about that. This is across the street. That's across the street from that part, So turning right out of there will be fine. But you can't turn left, and then if you add that parking, if you add traffic coming out of the car wash.
Then we have a traffic study done.
Well, that's what I said, until we can solve that's my opinion, until we can solve the traffic
We
problem.
time the lights differently. We have the
We
county.
don't have a
time
light.
lights.
We don't have a light.
Mr. President?
We're arguing amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
So, I just want to add one more point real quick. While we talked about the intense use of a retail versus this, and the petitioner has offered in their conditional that it be not open at night and it not be open on Sunday. If it's a C2, it can be open, I don't know, midnight. So you can still get a more intense use there, and that is allowed in the zoning. So the traffic patterns we can engineer out with the county and timing that light that they made blink years ago, and we yelled about that, to turn it off and turn it back on. But this is I think the best control we can have in the area for a minimal impact on the residents on the adjacent streets. That's my opinion. Mr. Kabczynski.
I was just going to simply ask, how many people do you intend to employ at this location, and what's going to be the median wage?
Yeah, I'm not the operator, so I'll give you kind of how I understand it. I think there's probably somewhere between 10 and 15 employees, not all at one time, obviously, but in total. The median wage, I cannot answer that. I'm not sure. We can get that answer for you if you like. If I could, I'd just like to weigh in on the traffic for a second. So with this type of use, this is not like a destination use that generates traffic. This is a use that captures pass-by traffic. So these cars are already on the road and stopping in here as a convenience on their way to and from work or from the store or wherever. So this is not a traffic generator of adding more trips per se, if you can kind of think about it that way. And we have had preliminary conversations with the road commission already, and they have generally given us a thumbs up on driveway configurations and locations at this point. Obviously, we got to get full permits and stuff with them, but we did have that same concern and vetted that out to this point to make sure that we weren't going to have an issue with the driveway locations or the access from them. So,
thank you.
Mr. President.
Any other comment? Ms. Rogancy.
Through the chair to Council Member Lafferty, what is the primary objection from the residents that neighbor that, and is there a more amenable business? I mean, it's been vacant for 7 years, it's not collecting taxes.
Through the chair. Ms. Rogancy, the neighbors have stated both on the record and to me their concerns about the vacuums and the dryers involved in this and the automation, that the constant noise from the business, and it's very similar to the disruption that was caused at Common, the homes that are right across the street from the car wash that opened up many years ago. And those neighbors still to this day can open the windows on the side of their home facing Ryan Road because they hear the blowers and the noise from that car wash and the car detailing area over 4 lanes of traffic. So, and these are going to be right in the backyard. I mean, these are some of the larger lots. Admittedly, you're talking about Elm Grove, which borders right behind this, and the lots are very large, and they're beautiful, but you've got they're so large and sound carries, and that's their primary concern. So while McDonald's and other businesses might have had traffic, but they didn't have constant noise from blowers and dryers and whatever else is going to come from a car wash, the noise of a car wash.
yeah, and if I may, we did definitely think about that on our plan, which is attached to the agreement. Number one, there is a 6-foot masonry fence along the property line. That's definitely going to help with, the noise carrying. Number two, the vacuums are all central vacs. So they're not like a vacuum unit at each parking space. Say you come to vacuum your car, so you turn it on, it doesn't make any noise. There's just suction at the hose. The vacuum units are located in enclosures all the way at the front of the site in order to mitigate that noise concern on that end. Again, the blowers, any blowers are on the very north side of the building, and every time cars go in, there's automatic doors that are closing behind them. So we did definitely think about the noise, and you know, understand that concern, and are, you know, willing to work on that as much as we need to. So,
Mr. Rogency?
That's
Good.
it, thank you.
Any additional? Mr. Watts, you want to chime in?
Yeah, sure. My only concern is I, too, go to that shopping center a lot. Trying to get out of that shopping center is an absolute nightmare if you're making a left. And I can't imagine making a left out of the car wash, what that's going to be like there.
I'll give you an example, because I go to the restaurants that are right there that you can't turn left out of because the median goes down that far.
Right.
I turn right and go down to Martin
Yeah.
and come back up to Ryan. So there's always the choice of not turning left and turning right.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, you know, potentially we should put a stipulation they can't turn left out of the wash to solve that problem, because I just can't imagine what the accident rate's going to be like with the people trying to turn left out of the shopping center, and people turning left out of the car wash. And I can tell you, I have a car wash by my house. And on the busy season, they're trying to turn left out on the 12 mile, and it's a mess. And it'll cause the car wash to back up. It's just, I don't know. I'd like to see the development, but I think there's some things here we need to solve.
Okay. Any additional?
Mr. President,
Ms. Moore?
can we say no left turn?
No, I don't think so. We can't impose a condition. We can just approve or deny at this point.
Okay.
right, and if I may, I mean, obviously, this is for rezoning. We understand that we still have a site plan, we still have final approvals from the road commission.
There's other
Obviously, we
steps.
would follow those, you know, follow those permits as we get down that road. And I guess just to reemphasize one point that Ron brought up, or one of the commissioners brought up, under the current zoning, there's many different uses that this site could be that would generate as much or more traffic than this use.
Mr. President?
Ms. Moore?
I'll withdraw my support for the denial at this time, just for the rezoning, but when anything else comes to us, I'll vote no if the traffic situation is not cleared up.
I will second Mr. Lafferty's motion.
Okay. Motion by Lafferty, support by Papandrea. Any further discussion? Call the question to deny. A yes is to deny. Mr. Lafferty?
Yes to deny.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes to deny.
Ms. Rogency?
No.
Ms. Moore?
No.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kabczynski?
No.
Green votes no. Motion to deny fails. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Support Rogency.
Motion by Moore, support by Rogency. Discussion. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
No.
Mr. Lafferty?
No.
Mr. Watts?
No.
Mr. Kabczynski?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 4-3. Good luck.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Next item.
Next item is 12A, presentation providing an update on the 37th District Court facility. Motion to approve. We need that.
I don't know. Are we voting on anything tonight, or are we just listening?
Are we what? Or just presentation tonight?
So we don't, motion to receive and file, anybody?
Motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Okay, we're all set.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, members of the Warren City Council. It's not often that I get a chance to appear in front of you, and that's because the person standing to my right, Annette Kateri-Ross, the court's magistrate and court administrator, does all the work normally in terms of bringing business before council. She really makes that court go, and because she does such a good job, I don't have to appear in front of you so much, thus depriving me of the pleasure of appearing before council. So thank you, Annette. But tonight's a little bit different, so I do get the chance to address council. I'm glad to be able to do so, and I want to thank council for putting this item on the agenda and giving me a chance to speak. As you know, some years ago, council created a committee to oversee the building of a new 37 District Court. I'm on that committee. Ms. Gutierrez Ross is on the committee, Councilman Papandrea is on the committee, and one of the first things that we had to do was to choose an architectural firm to be in charge of the project and overseeing the whole thing. We met with a number of firms in late summer of 2019. Some of the firms were local, some were nationally known, and after extensive interviews and voting, we chose the firm of BKV Group out of Chicago to be in charge of the project. BKV is a nationally known firm. They specialize in building courthouses and have built them across the country. And we're very happy to be able to have them be on board with us to be in charge of building the court. Things got delayed a little bit after BKV came on board because of the pandemic, but we're kind of back on track now in terms of designing the courthouse. And so tonight, Annette and I would like to give you, council, an update as to where we are with that. And so we have, I think, behind me somewhere, Henry Pittner and Michael Griebel, both from the BKV group, who are here to give the council a brief update as to where we are in terms of building the new courthouse. So, Henry, Mike?
Great. Thank you, Judge. Hi, I'm Henry Pittner. Mike Griebel behind me here. So we have a short presentation for you, and we'll take any questions, obviously, as we go through with that. Let's see here. This way, that way. Come on. Yeah, buddy. Where is it? Very short presentation because it ain't moving.
Great.
Time to go home. Help me, Patrick. What happened?
You hit the power switch on accident.
Oh, I hit the power switch on accident. Great, thank you. Oh, that was easy. Thank God he's
I'm not
back there.
confident.
Appreciate that. We have three things to go through. As we start a planning process, there's a needs assessment of what the actual needs of the courts are as we go through that. So, and then how to project forward so that the next 50 years of use are appropriate as you go through. We also, part of our engagement was looking at the sites that were available for a new courthouse and make a recommendation to you on that. And then we'll finish it up with next steps from there. Okay, there we go, great. So as we start, boy, this thing is giving me a hard time here. One more time. Come on back. There we go. So as you know, your courthouse is about 50 years old, about 38,000 square feet. That'll come into play a little later as you think about it. It's honestly served its time in the 50 years fairly well for the community, but at this point, it is really physically, functionally, and operationally obsolete as you look at it. That's why you've got the RFP out to get us on board. The biggest issues really are code, accessibility, separation of circulation, and really it's about the size and the types of spaces that the existing courthouse has that are really obsolete at this point. So overall, everybody, you've made that assessment already, so we just wanted to reinforce that for you. Michael will take us through some of the rest of the points as we come through on the needs assessment portion and some of the historic, come on, this is not fair. There we go. Sorry, Mike. Yeah, I keep that.
You keep that.
Great.
Good evening. The process that we go through for the needs assessment is basically designed to provide you with a facility in which the facility is in service of the mission and the operations of the facility. So we start that process by looking hard at the objectives of the facility. The state standards very much define the requirements of the facility, but in particular, several objectives were defined by the planning team and by the leadership of the courts and the city. In particular, the third point there, where a goal of the facility and the facility development was to provide safe and accessible and customer-friendly services. in particular providing services that will meet the needs over the next 50 years. With the facility designed for 20, but designed with expansion space on the site to accommodate a further expansion. We looked at caseloads to look at what the needs would be over time. So in looking at the caseloads that the court has been handling, until the COVID period hit, there was a general increase in cases that was in most categories of the cases. We compared our caseload projections with the caseload projections and the workload statistics that were provided by the State Court Administrator's Office. And in looking at those, it was obvious that there was going to be some continued growth in the projections going forward. So the caseloads had grown between 2010 and 2019. They fell off in 2020 and 2021, but they've since rebounded. And in comparison with 10 other jurisdictions, the caseloads did not fall as much as they did in other jurisdictions. So the court has been busy and continues to be busy. Next slide, please. I'm sorry that it's going to be hard to see any of the specific caseload projections, but we disaggregated the caseload and looked at what the caseloads were projected to be for traffic cases, for criminal cases, civil cases, landlord and tenant cases, and all of the different categories. And in developing those, as you can see in a small portion of the chart at the bottom, there's a projected increase of about 22% by 2045. That translates in terms of judicial officers. Your current number of judicial officers are about 4.5 by the state formula. The state formula, which uses a weighted caseload system, actually calculates the need at 5.39 judicial positions, but there's an additional factor that's used that brings it into about a 4.5 to 4.7. But with a 22% increase, it's really 6 that you should be looking at with some flexibility, because while the projections are useful, you can't really go forward by looking in a rearview mirror. So you have to allow a little bit of flexibility. So the planning for the facility is designed to accommodate 6, but to be able to be flexible to accommodate 7 or potential use of 5 and a portion of the 6th courtroom if needed at that time frame. Next slide. The basic challenge with your current court is that it doesn't have separations that meet the state standards. These standards are consistent across the nation, and this particular diagram explains how courtrooms are laid out on a floor plan. The judicial area and the jury deliberation suites are typically located in a zone called private. The judge's area, or the courtroom, is located in an area called the interface zone, and then the in-custody circulation comes to the courtroom from below, usually in this situation. So courts are typically set up in pairs of courtrooms with the holding areas between the courtroom so they can serve both directions. That's important because they're very accessible, but you have to design it properly so that there's good separation and good acoustics, because the sounds are very reverberant in those areas. So you make that a very acoustically proper space. Public circulation is in the green, as you can see up there, and that again is separate as well. Now this diagram, or those zones, also exist if you cut through a building, you'll see it in this section of the cut. So next slide, please. Oops, there it goes. There it is. Now, this diagram represents cutting through a building, and the way this diagram is drawn, there's a lower level that accesses from one side and a higher level that accesses from the other side. That's important because at the lower level, you can bring in custody circulation, service circulation, and loading docks, typically off of one side of the facility. And then off the other side, at the upper level, is the public entrance. So the public entrance serves on the one side into the green area, and it's usually set aside and pushed out from the building so that it provides additional safety and zoning as you approach the building. The clerk's area, the high-volume clerk and court functions are typically located on that area, but they have public access, and they also have access to the private circulation in the back. So they're the light-zoned area. The courtrooms are directly above, and the judges and the jury deliberation suites are on the back. So that's typically how it's laid out, and that this diagram is included actually in the state standards or variation of that diagram. So right in line with the state standards, also with design requirements from the Americans with Disability Act and other standards. So the overall net requirements of space are about 60,000, and when you put the circulation spaces on that, it adds up to about 74,000. That's in comparison to the 38,000 that he mentioned, but the 38,000 was for 4 courtrooms, and this is for 6 courtrooms. So 6 courtrooms plus the attendance spaces are about 74,000, and since the layout can vary a little bit, it's somewhere between 74,000 and maybe 76 or 80,000. So that has to be worked out during the next phase of the design. So that's it.
Thank you, Michael. The last part here really is about the site analysis. So we'll go through what we reviewed and where we've ended up with and what our recommendation would be moving forth. Hey, there we go. So we had, the RFP stated that there were 3 sites that we started with, and those are all on the city properties there. So one was west of the police station, the other one was the actual courthouse site itself, and then east of that is the parking lot of the courthouse. So you'll see those in the green, up in the 3 green sites there you see. And so since COVID came and all things changed, we wondered if there were other sites potentially available. So we did had some discussions with planning and DDA to see what else might be available. And so we looked at a bunch of other sites, but none of those actually worked out at the end of the day. They either weren't available, not for sale. Some were for sale, but actually sold within the period of time. So the only site that really had some legs to it was Site 2A, which is just north of the courthouse. It's currently where the police parking is. So that was one we added to the 3 original ones. So we actually did analysis on 4 sites for you. Come on, here we go, great. So the process really was twofold. One was to have a set of criteria, which give about 90 some points to look at in 3 different categories. So we scored all of those objectively, reviewed that with everybody as we went through. And when you look at those 4 sites, the final ranking actually gave Site 2A the highest grade. Site 3 was only about 3% difference, so that's the 2 parking areas. Site 2, which is the existing courthouse, would have been great because of its location, but operationally and logistically, it's a nightmare having to move the court somewhere else, tear the building down, build a new building, move the court back. A lot of money spent for no real good reason at that point. And then the police site was just too darn small, which we'll show you on some diagrams as we look at it. And operationally, it wasn't a good fit either as we looked at that. Come on. There we go. So the 4 sites that you see up there, the big red mark that goes all the way around the site, that is a setback that's required from the state administrator for the courts. In the guidelines and standards for courts, they look for a standoff distance of 50 feet. If you think about Oklahoma City and bombs and that kind of stuff, that's what that's all about, to keep vehicles away from the building and protect it as much, but it's in the standards, so we have to abide by that. And so you see that going all the way around the site. And if you're familiar with the parking lot for the courts, It's really where the tree line is and the parking lot begins on the east side. And then really if you take the north and the south of the police station, draw a line across, that's about 50 feet to the property lines there. So that's kind of the approximation of that. So again, as we looked at Site 1, what you see in these diagrams, and it's hard to tell, but the stuff in the blue is a 4-courtroom per floor courthouse, kind of a standard configuration with the stuff in the middle for the in-custody. And what you picture is a 2-story courthouse with 2 courts on the first floor, the clerks that Mike was talking about, and then the 4 courts above that. So it's a 2-story courthouse, and then below that would be the in-custody holding and vehicle sally port, things like that. So just to test fit it to see how they worked, Site 1 didn't work at all. You can't get the 4 courts that way. So we actually looked at having them facing each other, kind of like they do now, but you only get 2 courts, and they didn't fit with the site restrictions that we had there. So that one went away pretty quickly on the test fit. And then number 2 with the courthouse, we already described the logistics issues with it. Pretty good site if you could get away with that and not pay the extra monies to rebuild somewhere and then build again. So it really left Site 3 and 2A as the 2 potentials that meet all the criteria and fit in the site really well. So we have to make a recommendation as part of this because we have to go to planning to get site plan approval before we come back to you again. So we looked at the 2 sites and thought, well, if we can somehow combine them, that would be the best way to do it. If not, we could do single courthouses on either site. So as you look at it, we're actually building around the existing courthouse as the idea goes, so we can maintain the operations throughout, which is really important. Ideally, coming from the parking structure to the building in the same manner that people are now, so that there's the wayfinding is really excellent from that. We would be looking at changing that grade coming up to the building so it's better handicap accessible, which will help both the court and the police station. There'll still be a ramp up there though, but on a separate piece. So that's that arrow in the middle of the direction of the people coming to the entrance. And then on the east side in the purple, that's the parking for the staff. There's about 75 spaces there. And as you know, that part of the community, there's 1-story residential across the street on Kennedy Circle there. And then, so maintaining kind of the building away from that area is a good thing in how the density should work according to the zoning there. So we've tried to incorporate all those things to make that work. So our recommendation at the end of the day is let's combine 2A and 3, and then we still need to solve the police parking piece with that, but you know, there's other things happening right now, so we'll see how that all shakes out. So that's our recommendation there. And then at the end of the day, the next steps here from this update really are for us to finish the concept design work that we're doing, get ready to get the site plan approval materials in. As you know, that's a 4 to 6 week period of time of review, which gets us to a zoning board of appeals meeting in early February. And then we see you again in late February if everything works perfectly in the timing. So that's where we are with the progress of it, and I think we're sitting in a good shape. And then we'll start schematic design, which gets into the detail and the imagery and all the things that everybody's really interested in, and then we'll see where we are.
Great.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Questions? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Talk to you soon again.
Talk to you soon. Look forward to it. Next item.
Next item is 12B, request for the approval of an RFP and the appointment of one council member to serve on the RFP for auto charging stations at various city properties.
Where are we? Oh, BE. I know
Mr.
people.
President,
Ms. Rogansey?
I happily serve.
Okay. Ms. Rogansey,
Motion to
volunteers?
approve.
I'll support that.
Got support? All in favor?
Aye.
Congrats. Next item.
Request of Human Resources for approval of consulting services agreement with Willis Towers Watson for calculation of actuarially required reserves for cities' self-insured no-fault automobile liability. I can't talk today. Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Morris, support by Lafferty. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
12D was removed. 12E, request of Universal Ambulance to renew license to operate within the city of Warren. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Morris, support by Lafferty. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
13A, discussion in Ray responsible contracting ordinance. Motion to approve with discussion.
Support.
Motion by Morris, support by Lafferty. Discussion, Ms. Moore?
Yes, this item was brought back earlier in the year. Ms. Rogansey actually brought it up. Council voted to send this to the city attorney's office to come up with an ordinance, and we requested a committee meeting of the whole a little time after that, and we went to the committee meeting of the whole, and no progress had been made, no answers given. So I think at this point we should ask Plunkett Cooney, Mr. Schroeder, to write the ordinance, look at it, so that we can actually have something at, early next year. I've talked with some of the labor unions who have been asking us to do this. Mr. Green has had much more involvement in it than I have, so, but that would be my motion, is to send it to Mr. Schroeder to write it. Thank you.
Discussion, Mr. Lafferty?
At what point is the city attorney's office held responsible for not doing their job?
That's up to the mayor.
Understood. But as we well know the charter, despite the city attorney not being the attorney of record for this body, the charter states that the city attorney is directly responsible to us. And if he's not doing what he's supposed to, at what point does this become an ethical discussion, and at what point does his rules of conduct come into question when he's not doing what he's sworn to do?
Do you want me to answer that?
I'm looking for, I don't know if that's a
Mr. Schroeder
response
should
for
answer.
Mr. Schroeder as an attorney that can advise on that.
Mr. Schroeder can definitely answer. My personal opinion is that that time passed a long time ago. And we have a court, or do we have a consent order on that he has to provide things in a certain timely manner? Mr. Schroeder, you want dot I's and cross T's?
Through the chairman, Councilman Lafferty, that's a, excuse me, a complex question. There are so many things at this moment that are just not working or functioning from a legal perspective. Your question is how to force him to do his job, and I don't know of any way to do that. I am going to defer any responses on ethical or conduct-related issues at this moment. But in reality, the charter says the city attorney is directly responsible to the council and should prepare ordinances and other things and documents at council's request. That's essentially what the charter says. So, I mean, I'm really at a loss. We're litigating this matter in front of Judge Michael Servito, where the judge is going to look at the status of the city attorney having not been approved by this council. We have a status conference on that on January 4th, and so I'll report back after our status conference with the court about whether the court's just going to issue an opinion in order, so we have direction moving forward, how that works, or whether, you know, he's going to try some other alternative dispute resolution, which just simply isn't going to work. I think both attorneys have advised the court that, you know, trying to sit with a mediator is just, you know, probably not going to work under these circumstances. So, in that case too, I will admit that the mayor's attorney is trying to, have me removed from performing duties for the council, and so that you are forced to have Ethan Vinson represent the council and take his advice and his opinions. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but so it shouldn't be this way, but that's where we are.
Conflated. And I just want to state, this one hasn't, the responsible contracting ordinance hasn't even been written. If I recall correctly, I mean, the room was filled with all sorts of labor unions and supporters. We had dozens of people speak in support of this. This was not something that was controversial. I believe it received nearly unanimous support up here. And then we have the Veterans Commission, we have the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission ordinance. Those two haven't even been published. So this is not an isolated incident.
Okay.
Mr.
Thank you.
President.
Let's address this in the next item.
Well,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to state also that when ordinances come to us for first reading and we give direction on how it's changed, it's coming back that they won't make the changes. So I'm not been putting it on the agenda because we directed them and voted for certain items and they're not following anything, and they're supposed to be following on the ordinances what we say because we create those, not them. So it's a problem. But Mr. Green's right.
Any additional? This is to send the responsible contracting ordinance to Mr. Schroeder to draft and get back to us in a short manner. Call the question, Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
No.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 6-1. By the way, we saw Mr. Jorg last night.
Yeah.
Sorry?
We saw Robert Jorg last night and mentioned
Oh,
him.
nice.
So, next item.
Next item is update 13B, a legal update by Mr. Schroeder. Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts to receive and file. Mr. Schroeder.
We have a few matters to update. So we have the case where there was a failed attempt to remove our esteemed council president from his position, and there is currently a preliminary injunction order to prevent anyone in the administration from attempting to remove Council President Green or not respect his authority as a council member or his votes or any of those things. So we initially had a TRO, temporary restraining order. The court had a full hearing, issued a preliminary injunction order, and then on Monday we had a hearing on summary disposition. Summary disposition is sort of what we call a dispositive motion in the case where the court is going to make a final decision, and this is as to the council and the mayor over who gets to decide when a term ends, and I won't get into all that. We've talked about that before. The court did allow Mr. Gary Boyke to intervene as a defendant in this case. He was the third place finisher in the last election. So Mr. Boyke is in the case as an intervening defendant. And, I read the court's opinion and order on that, and I thought it made a lot of sense. The court also denied the city attorney, Ethan Vinson, who wanted to intervene in this case as a party. He wanted to be a party defendant in the case. The court said no. Our argument was, you're the city attorney. You either represent the city or city officials or you give advice. Why are you trying to be a party to this case? It's the council and the mayor trying to figure out whose job it is to, pluck someone from their seat in the middle of their term. And so far, the court has sided with the city council that the city council has that job under the charter and that the city council's interpretation of the charter was correct as to Mr. Green. We're waiting for a final order on that. So a bigger problem is that the law firm of Miller Canfield is representing the third place finisher from the last election, who is a private citizen, and the city of Warren appears, they won't deny it, appears to be paying for the legal fees of a private citizen. That is something we are going to take up, because I don't even think it's legal. I don't think it's legal to pay for the legal fees of a private citizen. There is a procedure. If you lost an election and you think the person that won is not qualified for their position, it could be a number of reasons. It could be whatever interpretation you have of term limits. It could be, You know, if it was Mr. Green, if he decided to move out of the city, well, you know, there'd be a problem. You have to live in the city. So it's called quo warranto. And we have one resident in Warren who's an expert on quo warranto. I actually saw a letter he sent to the Attorney General. It was really good. And this quo warranto procedure is brought by a private citizen. So you read the law, it says a private citizen brings this. You read the court rule, a private citizen. And why is the city paying a law firm to represent a private citizen? That's something we're going to bring up. In addition, the same law firm is representing Mr. Vinson. And today, I was working and I received an email that Mr. Vinson is now suing the city council. The city attorney, who is directly responsible to the council, is suing the council. And it's a very bizarre lawsuit. He's really trying to challenge the judge's preliminary injunction order in this case about Mr. Green's term, Council President Green's term. And he was already denied the right to enter this case as a party, so he filed a separate lawsuit against the council. And he's saying the judge's injunction threatens and prejudices his interpretation of the charter and interferes with his ability to perform his duties as city attorney. Council, this is another untenable position to say that I'm the city attorney and I'm immune from judicial review, that I'm going to issue orders and you're going to listen to me, and they're suing the council over this, and he's challenging the court's jurisdiction to review the charter. And again, people get upset about legal fees. I get upset about legal fees. People think I'm happy about it. I'm not. I'm just as upset as everybody else because we have to work on this stuff. And this is yet another untenable position. He wants to be able to write a legal opinion and say, I'm the final word, and the court can't review it. So we are going to swiftly try to deal with this one. I've talked to my partners at Plunkett Cooney. Everyone was a little bit surprised at seeing this today. We're going to put together a plan to swiftly put an end to this one, and we don't think it's proper in any way, shape, or form. On a brighter note, there was a Court of Appeals hearing this morning where this is the mayor bringing a case to the Court of Appeals that he's appealing from the circuit court, where the circuit court said that the city council has the right to adopt a budget, pass a budget under the charter and the state law, and that the mayor must follow that budget. The mayor's position is, I don't have to follow the budget if I don't like that budget, or if I feel you didn't negotiate with me, and I have the ability to spend money. And the oral argument is actually online. If you go to YouTube, Michigan Court of Appeals, December 13th, 2022, you go to the panel with Judge Kavanaugh, who is the presiding judge, and it's about 10 minutes. And if you've never experienced the Court of Appeals before, it's at the 49-minute mark. And I would encourage all council members to watch it, and if anyone at home wants to watch it, I think you should. I think the judges handled this case very well in their questioning. I think they grasped the issue. We should have an opinion and order coming very soon. The chief judge of the panel had some interesting comments to make at the very beginning. I'll leave it at that. It's worth a watch. And also on another bright note, we have a potential resolution to one of our lawsuits. I've worked very hard on this to try to put an end to it. And we have a handshake agreement to end a lawsuit. And I would like to see if we can bring that for a vote next week and maybe perhaps have a closed session before that. I will let the council office work with council members to try to schedule that, and maybe we can get one of these lawsuits off our docket and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schroeder. Ms. Moore, anything else?
Will you send me that link so I can post it where that YouTube is? Nope. I'm good.
That was a motion to receive and file. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next item is 14A, request of the Police Department for an increase in budgeted revenues and appropriations in the amount of $20,000 to utilize State 911 Dispatch Training Grant funds, consideration and adoption of a resolution. This needs 5 votes. Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Discussion. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Mr. Kabczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
14B, request of the Police Department for an increase in budgeted appropriations of funds in the amount of $238,641 to cover the costs of additional police vehicles and radios to meet the needs of current staffing levels. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. 5 votes is needed. Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Discussion.
Mr. President,
Mr. Watts.
we had a vehicle subcommittee before the meeting and discussed this. We have, these are additional cars to bring the fleet up because we're at maximum staffing. All the positions are filled right now. Cars are breaking down. We have 8 cars on order since July, and they're not expected to be here till April or May. So they found these cars in stock. They can get them equipped right away, and it'll help keep cars on the road. Right now, they're having to double up some cars because of repairs and stuff. So I think this is a great purchase, and it'll get us a little bit above maybe.
Good. Thank you. Any additional? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea? Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Yes.
Green votes yes. I pass 7-0. Good job. Next item.
14C, request of the Police Department for an increase in budget appropriations of funds in the amount of $45,000 to cover the increased costs of prisoner food. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. 5 votes are needed. So moved with discussion.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Mr. Watts, you're retired. I don't know why you couldn't whip up some sandwiches for lunch for the prisoners.
I'll pass. Although we could serve bologna or peanut butter.
Spray.
Point of order, Mr. President.
No, the spray. The bologna,
Oh.
the bologna, spray, bologna smell.
There you go.
Commissioner, how are you?
Good, how are you? Good evening.
What happened to the previous, I heard he passed.
Yeah, unfortunately, the owner and operator of the previous
Yeah.
company that we've had contract for quite a few years passed away.
He's got the he had the store on 10 Mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Love
so
this.
he passed away over the summer and was no longer able to do this, obviously
Yeah.
provide services to their company. We've been going through Gordon Foods to supply it ourselves until this bid could go out. That's why there's the increase, because Gordon Foods was quite a bit more than the contract supply price. And then this $45,000 will allow us to continue for the rest of this fiscal year.
Got it. Sad to hear.
Yeah. For sure.
Any other questions?
Point of order, Mr. President.
Which question? Go ahead.
My question is, I have questions for C, 14C and D. They're interlinked with each other. So I want to know, should I ask my questions now about both of them together or wait until item D?
I think that's fair.
So ask them now or
Yeah, go
wait
ahead.
until the next one?
No, go ahead.
Commissioner, I see that we have the increase and obviously it has somewhat to do with the food costs going up too. If I'm doing my math right, the subtraction of the two, the increases for this additional amount exceeding the next value to $56,250. So that means we used to get the food for about $11,250.
No, I don't believe so. I believe it was around 20,000 for the year, 25,000. And you could see the lowest bid for this new contract for a full year was around 57,000 or 58,000. They did increase because of, you got one sandwich. There was one type of sandwich, that was it. It was one muffin, that's what you got. Now, because of different health requirements, dietary requirements, there's specialty items, gluten-free sandwiches, that type of thing. So because of the additional requirements, the price did go up.
Okay, and this was the low bidder in the entire city of Warren?
Right, we had 3 bids to the city. The winning bid is the House of Reuben, which has been within the city since the beginning of time. It's always been here on 8 Mile, and they were the low bid. I believe they just nudged out Variety Foods, but they were the low bid.
And you said that our cost used to be about $20,000 per year?
Without seeing the contract, because I believe we last went in front of council about 3 years ago for them, 2-3 years ago. Normally, once we establish with a company, they, just like I believe on this one, they have options to renew the contract each year without putting it up for bid. But I believe it was in the low 20s.
Sounds about right. You
It
can
just
reach out
seems
to Mr.
like
Fox.
one heck of an increase. I mean, okay, thank you.
You can reach out to Mr. Fox or Mr. Treppa. They would have the historical data on it. But that guy, that gentleman who did it before used to run the concession stand at the ice rink. He used to do concession for daddy-daughter dances at elementary schools, and just he had that down of doing that small catering.
Yeah.
And that's basically what this is. So when you lose that, you're subject to whoever the next lowest is.
Mm-hmm.
Any additional? Call the question, Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty.
Yes.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski.
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy.
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea.
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
14D, request of the Police Department to award bid ITBW 0798 for furnishing sandwiches to the Police Department Detention Facility for a one-year period with the option to renew for 2 additional one-year periods to House of Reuben, Detroit, in an annual amount not to exceed $56,250. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
14E, request of the Department of Public Works for an increase in budgeted appropriations of funds in the amount of $133,960 to fund shared project costs associated with the water garage locker room improvements. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. 5 votes are needed. So, motion to approve.
Support Rogancy.
Motion by Moore, support by Rogancy. Discussion? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
14F, request of the Wastewater Treatment Division and DPW to award ITBW 0728 water garage locker improvements to Pinnacle Contracting LLC in an amount not to exceed $394,000. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion.
Mr. President,
Mr. Watts?
I'm wondering if anybody can explain how the cost is being split between the 2 departments and where the lockers are going to be at.
Mr. Walker? Evening, sir.
Good evening, Council. How are you guys tonight? The answer to that question is I have 14 budgeted positions, so that's where my cost comes in from the total amount. I wish my counterpart my counterpart is here, with his numbers. I don't have his exact employee numbers, but it
So
was
it's
split by
employee count?
budgeted employee numbers.
Here's the numbers. 260, 40 to water. Okay. Pardon me?
Gary?
It's $260,040 to water and $133,960 to DPW, the split.
Okay, I didn't catch that. And all the lockers are going to be, so all the DPW lockers will now be in the wastewater side?
No, well, I don't know the exact year because I wasn't in charge, but the fleet maintenance portion moved over to the water garage, and there's a locker room there that they share between my mechanics and the water guys that are on the road. It's that locker room. It's going to be increased in size because of the increased number of employees, and it's also going to bring it into ADA compliance.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Fox.
Mr. Chairman, item D, it should be the water department, not the wastewater.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a misprint at the beginning of it, but they caught it at the bottom. Where it said
So the first on
should be water.
On just water, not wastewater treatment division, but water division?
That is correct.
Okay, so noted. Thank you.
That makes sense.
That's all I got.
Anything else? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
14G, request of the Controller's Office for an increase in budgeted revenues and appropriations in the amount of $10,000 to provide funding for an integrated payables service. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. 5 votes needed. Motion to deny. Motion to approve.
Support,
Lafferty.
Rogan C.
Motion by Moore, support by Rogan C. Discussion.
Discussion.
Mr. Lafferty.
Yes, just a brief explanation. If could get a explanation from the treasurer or
Treasurer, come on.
Good evening. So this will be a full integrated payable system. So right now, when we do list of bills, there's about 1,000, of course, every council meeting, and those mostly, minus a few wire transfers, are all going out through checks, through the mail. So that is how we pay all of our city bills, even things like DTE Energy and bigger companies like that. This integrated payable system will allow us to make things more convenient for our vendors and for us as a city, and will allow us to not only save taxpayer dollars, but also earn some as well with some rewards using a card program. So I use DTE as an example. Instead of us sending DTE hundreds of thousands of dollars through checks through the mail, we will be, like other cities, paying with like a one-time use card, and DTE will accept that payment, and then we get rewards in return, cash back on our tax dollars. So a lot of the larger companies like that will be paid with the card program, and then some of our smaller businesses, we can pay with ACH payments. And since I've been treasurer, this is something that small business owners have asked me repeatedly. It's so much more convenient. They're not waiting on their checks. Checks aren't lost in the mail. And, you know, it goes right into their account. As far as the controls of this, it would be the same. So all the list of bills reporting is generated in the controller's office and sent to City Council for City Council to approve. Once those are approved by City Council, then all of the payments are sent out through the treasurer's office. So instead of sending every single payment by check, some payments will be sent by card, some payments will be sent through an ACH payment, and then some still will be sent by check.
So, I don't know, Mr. President, this sounds an awful lot like modernization, like we're bringing a certain system up into the 21st century.
Or the 90s.
This is terrific. That's why I asked for the explanation. I wanted to highlight this program. This is incredible, and it's great to see.
Is this a new RFP?
You served on this. This was the
How
one
long-
that I
how
had
long
to
ago was
drop
this?
off, and you did this.
We started the RFP process in 2021. There were some things with the contract back and forth between our legal team and Chase Bank, but of course all those are resolved, and you have the contract in front of you. But I just want to say, this whole payable process is a complete partnership between the treasurer's office and the controller's office, and it's just a great teamwork effort, and I just can't thank the controller and his team enough. We've all been extremely eager to get this done for several years, so we're really excited to have this before you tonight.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Call the question.
Mr. President?
Mr. Watts.
I got one question. Where does this put us if we had to stop payment if something was done wrong or?
Right, it would be the same process, just a little different. So for instance, if a ACH needed to be stopped, then my office would go in, and if it was directed by the City Council, then we could go in and stop it. Same process, and procedures would be in place for for all of these different avenues.
Okay, I don't have any problem with this. I think it's great we're modernizing, but I was just concerned because not like we've had a problem in the last couple of years with stuff, so.
Well, and I think, like I said, with the check stop policy and just some of the conversations that my team has had with the controller's office, I think we really have a strong handle on that not taking place again.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional? Call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Rogan-C?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski? Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
14G, request of the control. 14G, request of the Controller's Office for an increase in budgeted revenues and appropriations in the amount of $10,000 to provide funding for an integrated payables service.
We just did that one. We're on H.
Sorry. Request of the RFPW 0451 review panel to approve a contract for providing integrated payables to JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. for a 3-year period with options to extend for 2 additional 3-year periods, followed by an option to extend for 1 final year. Annual cost shall not exceed $10,000. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Ms. Rogan-C?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 14I, which was 4N, request of the wastewater treatment plant to award the demolition of the wastewater treatment plant dryer building chimney to Blue Star, Inc. in amount not to exceed $375,000. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. Motion to deny.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty to deny. Discussion. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
No.
Mr. Papandrea?
No.
Ms. Rogan-C?
No.
Green votes yes. Denial passed 4-3. Next item.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Remember, next meeting is next.